So as I said, I just did all the announcements, so we'll be getting started here in about 10 seconds. I'm just letting the people fill in real fast. It does take a moment. Do appreciate everybody in the audience being here today. We've got a fun debate between Wi-Fi Gospel and Godless Engineer over the topic, does a Christian God exist? I appreciate everybody in the audiences hanging on for a few minutes while we were working through some tech problems, and appreciate everyone chilling out for the bump back. I know I had a lot of people in my audience waiting for this debate to get started, so everybody seems to be really excited to see y'all chat. I think this is going to be a really, really fun debate, and I'm excited to have both of you here. Well, Wi-Fi, I've known you for a while now. You seem like a good dude, and I've seen you do debates and whatnot. And Godless Engineer, honestly, I've seen your YouTube videos for years and years now, so it's a pleasure having you here. In fact, I think I sent you the first DM to you like in 2020 or something. About a game that had come out. I'm very familiar with both of y'all, and it's awesome to have you both here today. This debate is going to, I sent you both the structure for it, and so we're trying a little bit better structure, I think, to have a little bit better back and forth. So basically today, what we'll be doing is we'll have the introductions at 7 minutes. So you'll have 7 minutes to make your case. Wi-Fi Gospel, you're taking the affirmative, and so you'll be going first. Godless Engineer, when we get to the closing portion, you'll be closing that because you're taking the negative on the topic, does a Christian God exist? So the introductions are going to be 7 minutes, and then we'll do 2 rounds of cross-exam. There's going to be the affirmative cross-exam, which will be 7 minutes, and then the negative will have 7 minutes, and that's round 1, so you'll have a back and forth for 7 minutes each, basically. So the cross-exam, round 2 is going to be the same thing, so we'll do Wi-Fi Gospels for 7 minutes, Godless Engineer for 7 minutes, Wi-Fi Gospel for 7 minutes, and then Godless Engineer for 7 minutes. Does that make sense on the cross-exam?
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the open discussion is going to be an open discussion. It's going to be moderated. That's going to be 30 minutes. And so after the cross-exams, we'll go into an open discussion where y'all can bring up the various points that y'all had made in the cross-exams, because the point of the cross-exam is to point out other people's position, right? And so what you think might be issues with other person's position, that type of thing, build your case, right? And so you'll have an open discussion to build your case further. And then we'll do 2 7-minute closing statements. So that'll be Wi-Fi doing the first closing statement, and then Godless Engineer doing the final closing statement. And then we'll pull in an audience Q&A, which will be 30 to 60 minutes, just depending on the questions that are coming in. On the YouTube, you can ask questions, and then in chat as well, you'll be able to raise your hand here and chat with our guests. We'll try to do 2 or 3 questions each if you're raising your hand. Ideally, we have a lot of people raising. Normally, we get a lot of people raising their hands for these. So those will ideally be just a few. One second, I got to turn off background noise. So those will be just a few questions each. We're not trying to do a long back and forth with the guests, right? So audience members, just keep that in mind. With the introductions and closing statements, there's not going to be any over talking, so please allow your debate opponent to make their case in both the introduction and the closing statement. So cross-examination rules, you control your cross-exam time. If the other speaker derails a conversation, just say something. Hey, I'm taking my time back, right? But try to respect each other's time during the cross-exam. So when you're in control of your cross-exam, you're in control of that. Just say, you got 7 minutes at a time, so just remember you got to be in control of that time, right? With the question rules, only the debater whose turn it is may ask questions during that cross-exam. If you need clarification or something, that's fine, but please respond directly and concisely. Do not ask a bunch of questions during the cross-exam. They only have 7 minutes at a time to make their case. Do not clock drain, so no deliberate stalling, dodging, or providing slower responses meant to run out the clock. Repeated violations of that may result in time. I don't think there will be violations, but I do have some mod tools that I can use to help control your time if I have to, but ideally you're just going back and forth and having a good conversation, right? The open discussion rules, that's going to be a free-flowing, moderated exchange intended to allow both of y'all to engage naturally and build on or challenge each other's arguments that were presented in both the cross-exam and then what comes up during that. Please avoid filibustering during that. Time is not going to be paused unless intervention is needed due to disruption or confusion. I can step in to balance speaking time or redirect the conversation as needed from there. During the audience questions, it's not going to be another cross exam. So it's okay if you ask the other person for clarification if they're asked a question from the audience, but let's not go into it and start a whole nother cross exam, right? That can be a little bit excessive. With that being said, please engage with your opponent respectfully. This is a collaborative exchange of ideas, not a combat. Allow your interlocutor to speak and make their case. Maintain a tone of intellectual curiosity and civility. Do y'all have any questions there?
Nope.
I just had to connect with my phone, so I don't know if my camera is going to be on, unfortunately.
No worries. Okay. And so we're going to go ahead and do quick intros for y'all now. I just wanted to go over the debate rules at the start and address any questions that might pop up. I know we could cover this prior as well, but just so the audience gets an idea too. But with that being said, Wi-Fi, since you're the affirmative, go ahead and introduce yourself and your channel and do a quick plug.
Yeah, I'm just grabbing my charger, but while I do that, I can say my name is Alex. My channel is Wi-Fi Gospel. I've been doing a lot of debates. This is like my 6th debate in the last 2 weeks, so they're all up on my YouTube channel if you want to check them out. Thank you so much for putting this together, Breakfast Tacos, and thank you, Godless Engineer, for doing this. Sorry for being late, and sorry for the technical difficulties, but I'm glad we can still do this.
No worries, and great to have you. And everybody make sure to follow Wi-Fi Gospel. He's been doing a ton of debates recently. And then Godless Engineer, go ahead and do a quick plug for yourself, introduce yourself to the audiences, and then we'll go ahead and get started here.
All right, yeah. So I'm the Godless Engineer. I have a YouTube channel. Also, all the other social medias out there. I'm just Godless Engineer. I produce videos, do debates. I'm a regular host on the Atheist Experience as well as the Line. And yeah, I can't wait to get started.
Cool. Thank you. And everybody subscribe to Godless Engineer. He's got great content as well. And everybody in the various audiences, feel free to join discord.gg/politics to join us for the live Q&A. And then if you have any questions, we'll be able to get those addressed there. But Wi-Fi Gospel, let me know when you're ready, and I'll get your timer started here for the introduction.
I just found a phone stand. I can probably use that for my camera. You want me to set that up real quick? It's like 2 seconds.
If you'd like to, sure.
Sure, okay.
I don't know if it's like my ADHD thing or like because I'm recording over here on my computer and I got it, cropped down and everything, but every time Wi-Fi mutes and it swaps up the cameras, it's messing with me. There's no reason to change how you're doing things, Wi-Fi. I was just wanting to complain a little bit.
Yeah,
no worries.
It's going to do that every single time, so just a heads up.
So I have a cough too, so I don't know. I'll try not to mute, and that way it'll stop that from happening.
Cool. Well, let me know when you're ready, and we'll go ahead and start your 7 minutes for your introduction.
I'm ready now.
Perfect. You've got 7 minutes starting now.
All right. So we rely on reason, logical inference, deduction, and meaningful discourse to explore reality. But why is reason trustworthy in the first place? Some argue that reason is simply a product of human autonomy, an accidental byproduct of a purposeless universe. Yet if reason arises from mere accident, there is no ultimate basis for its validity. Instead, we must acknowledge that reason requires an unshakable foundation. This leads us to a choice. Either everything is accidental, unplanned, and chaotic, or there is a purposeful creator who designed and sustains the rational order we experience. If you choose the accidental option, the possibility of knowledge collapses. Meaningful statements and logical inferences cannot be grounded in a random, purposeless universe. Yet the very act of making an argument, defending or rejecting God's existence, already assumes that knowledge is possible and reason is reliable. This undercuts the accidentalist view because they rely on the intelligibility of reality to argue against the worldview that makes reality intelligible in the first place. Thus, by the impossibility of the contrary, only a purposeful framework, revelatory theism, can justify knowledge. Why revelatory theism? Because the God in question must communicate truth and ground reason, not merely exist in the abstract. If our rational faculties are to be valid, we need a God who designed them and reveals himself in a consistent, intelligible way. A purely material or accidental process can never truly vouch for the certainty of reason. It simply lacks the resources to do so. It's not that we must prove God using autonomous human standards. That would treat human reason as though it existed independently of God. In reality, God is prior to all proof. God's existence provides the very preconditions for rational discourse. As has been said, there is no purely rational case for God. There is only a theistic account of rationality itself. Arguments do not stand above God to measure his reality. Rather, God's revelation makes arguments possible at all. In short, if we assume a world of pure accident, our statements, this debate included, become nonsensical. We can't ground reason, logic, or any form of valid knowledge. But the moment we use reason, we affirm a framework in which reason makes sense. A purposeful world created and sustained by God. That is why I maintain that God is real, by the impossibility of the contrary, and by the necessity of a rational foundation. The only coherent grounding for reason and knowledge lies in a revelatory theistic God, the Christian God. Now, I'd like to talk about the difference between an internal critique and an external critique. In general, an internal critique examines a view, theory, or system by accepting its core premises or values, and then showing how it fails on its own terms. In other words, an internal critique tries to work within the assumptions or standards the system itself claims to uphold and reveal where it might be incoherent or contradictory. By contrast, an external critique examines a view, theory, or system from an outside perspective. Instead of starting with the system's own assumptions or principles, the critic applies different values or standards, ones the system itself does not necessarily share, and shows how the system is problematic according to those outside standards. If my opponent tonight wants to levy an external critique, he must provide a coherent worldview from which he makes this external critique. Otherwise, he will be implicitly borrowing from my worldview while trying to critique it. It should be an internal critique. The objection that I must prove every single worldview wrong in order for my argument to work is an external critique. You are imposing a standard on my worldview that my worldview doesn't hold. In my worldview, God is the necessary precondition for knowledge. If you deny this, you are saying that knowledge can be grounded by one or multiple different things besides the Christian God. This statement is not made in a vacuum. This statement is made within a worldview that is not the Christian worldview, and therefore makes this an external critique. I don't expect that to stop my opponent from making this critique, so here is my answer. The Trinity is necessary. Why? The philosophical problem of the one and the many. How do we make sense of a world that is made up of many distinct things, diversity, and yet seems to be unified, order, categories, laws? In other words, how can there be unity without collapsing all differences into sameness? How can there be diversity without everything being unrelated chaos? Here are some examples. You see many trees, diversity, but they all fall under the category tree, unity. What makes them share treeness? In science, we observe many individual events, but we believe there are laws of nature, unity, governing them. Here's how the Trinity solves this. God is both one and many, one being eternally existing in three distinct persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Each person is fully God, yet there are not three gods, but one God. This means unity, the one essence of God, and diversity, three persons, are equally ultimate in God's very nature. So in the Christian worldview, unity and diversity are not at war. They exist in harmony from eternity. Therefore, when God creates the world, he creates it with real diversity, many things, that are truly unified under God's rational order, a reflection of his own nature. So the Trinity provides the metaphysical grounding for why unity and diversity can both be real and reconciled in creation. Why can't Unitarianism solve this issue? A Unitarian God, like in Islam, Judaism, Deism, is absolutely one with no plurality in his nature. Diversity must be something external to this kind of God. It's not in his nature. That means diversity in creation is not grounded in the nature of God. It's either arbitrary or less ultimate. It also implies that relation and love are not eternal. Before creation, this God was alone and had no one to love or communicate with. This leads to a monolithic view of unity. Diversity becomes a problem, not a feature. So such a God cannot account for both unity and diversity being equally real and meaningful. And that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. Let me get that restarted. Let me know when you're ready, Godless, and we'll go ahead and start your timer as well.
So first, I want to thank everyone for being here today to take part in this debate. I'm going to present my argument for why the God, specifically the Christian God, is insufficient as to the best explanation of our reality. And why I think theism is insufficient. My arguments basically rely on the prior probability of any one religion being the correct version of theism, the insufficient nature of theism's explanations for events in reality, and the bad arguments used to argue for the existence of God. So first I want to lay out the prior probability that any one definition of God or theistic belief is the correct one. So currently there are 4,200 religions in existence today, with many more that have existed in the past. All these past religions have been proven to be false. We know that Zeus didn't throw lightning bolts. We know a rainbow-colored snake hasn't vomited out Australian Aboriginals. We know that Uranus didn't impregnate Gaia to give birth to Titans. These are beliefs of past religions. At the time they were considered to be representations of reality. This is the fate of all religious ideas. Even in Christianity, we have obsolete ideas. The creation of the earth in Genesis is not representative of reality. The earth and the diversity of life that we find on earth today was not created 6,000 years ago. Even ideas like God mandating the taking of slaves has changed. There are numerous ways that we know specific definitions of God, like the Abrahamic God, isn't reality. Next, the theism has insufficient explanations for events that happen in reality. So ultimately, the only explanation that theism can provide is God. Specifically, God did it. The God did it answer doesn't tell us anything meaningful about the events that occur in reality. Attributing some event to God only succeeds at stopping people from critically thinking about why or how some event happened. More specific definitions of God do not provide more information. They only exacerbate the issue. How do you know that particular event was caused by that particular God? Another problem is that these specific definitions of God can't all be correct, but they can all be wrong. Put plain and simple, there is no connection between this reality and anything supernatural. In order for you to attribute some event to God, you must first prove that this God can even affect our reality. God is not really an explanation for anything. Every supernatural event that supposedly happened in the past has always been proven to be a natural event later. Take lightning, for example. The ancient Greeks thought Zeus wielded lightning as his weapon. Every place struck by lightning was considered sacred. Muslims have also attributed lightning to their god. Jeremiah 51:16 claims that God controls lightning. All these supernatural ideas can be and are false. We know what lightning is. We know that lightning is caused by large collections of positively and negatively charged particles interacting with each other. This normally occurs in clouds, but also does happen between the clouds and the ground. This process is dictated by the physics of the natural world. We have no need for a supernatural explanation when we have a natural one. Again, the only explanation that theistic ideas can give us is God did it. Finally, the arguments for God's existence are unable to sufficiently prove that God doesn't exist. There have been several arguments for God's existence, for the existence of God. The cosmological argument suggests that there is a transcendent first cause of this universe, and that cause is God. This argument makes a leap in logic from what caused the inflation of the universe to God. The bigger leap in logic occurs when it is used to suggest a specific definition of God. I agree that something caused the inflation of the universe, but you don't have the evidence to say that that cause was God. You must first prove that natural events need supernatural intervention in order to happen. Next, the teleological argument is an argument from design. It postulates that if something looks designed, then it must be designed. Everything that was designed has a creator. Therefore, the universe has a creator since it looks designed to us. Just because you think this universe looks designed doesn't mean that it actually was designed. What would be the criteria for determining between designed and undesigned objects? We have natural explanations for how natural objects come into existence without the need of supernatural intervention. And if we have a natural explanation, then we don't need a supernatural one. The moral argument is likewise insufficient. The moral argument speculates that God is needed for morality to be absolute or objective. If there is no objective or absolute morality, then everything is just an opinion. Since murder is absolutely wrong, then God must be the source of this knowledge. Only an absolute transcendent being can provide this basis. But this doesn't make sense with what we experience in reality. If God had done this, then we would expect his moral code to remain absolute across time. Even now, our moral foundations change depending on what society we live in. We would also need to more specifically define this deity in order to argue for their supposed moral foundation. As an example, let's take a look at Christianity. We don't see an immutable moral foundation in Christianity. In fact, Christianity's moral foundation changes depending on time and place. In Numbers 31:17-18, God commands his chosen people to abduct young girls after murdering their entire family, including the young boys. If you transpose that into the present day, these would be horrible war crimes. But it's okay for them to do that because God told them to do it. If this isn't considered good or okay to do now, why did that deity command it? Considering most, if not all, religions of the past, why would their respective deities require they to do any of these things that humanity has done? If this moral code is not immutable, then what explains our changing moral foundation? Since our common moral foundations seem to change with the social norms of a society, it seems like we are the ones that dictate what our moral foundation is. If we are the ones dictating what we see as morally right, wrong, and neutral, then we would expect a changing landscape of morality. That's exactly what we find in religious communities. We see religious people with differing opinions on what their absolute moral code is. Morality is an emergent Okay.
Perfect. Thank you both for your awesome introductions here. We'll go ahead and move into the cross exams. Remember, these are going to be 7-minute cross exam brackets. This is going to start with Wi-Fi, and you're both going to get 2. So it's going to be Wi-Fi, Godless, Wi-Fi, Godless, and then we'll move into the open discussion. But let me know when you're ready, Wi-Fi, and we'll go ahead and start your first 7-minute cross exam timer.
All right, I'm ready.
You have 7 minutes starting now.
Cool. All right. I can just call you Godless, I'm assuming?
Godless, John. It doesn't matter. Either one works.
Cool. All right. John's probably easier for me. My brother and my father are both named John. So there we go. Your arguments from probability. That you say that because there are so many religions that it's less likely that any of them are true? Is that what the argument was?
Well, no. So my point was that they all can't be true, but they can all be wrong, and that considering that, well, I guess the claim specifically for Christianity is that Christianity is the one true religion, and I'm guessing specifically whatever denomination you're in, that's an even smaller segment of Christians out there. You're saying that every 4,199 religions are wrong, but yours is right. So it just seems more special pleading that rather than anything that's statistically reliable.
Okay. Would it make sense to say that because there is counterfeit money, that there's no such thing as real money?
No, because there's very obviously we can. I would say that if you to make the analogy appropriate here, if you said that all money was counterfeit money except for this one bill out there, or that maybe only bills from Philadelphia. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that would be comparable.
Okay. The only point I was making is that just because there are false religions doesn't mean that there isn't a true religion. You would agree, right?
No, yeah, true. I specifically said they all can't be true. So I mean, it's either exactly one
Right.
is true or they're just all wrong.
Cool. So you also made some claims. Am I getting any background noise, or am I good?
No, you're good.
Sorry, there's this weird beeping noise. I can't. All right. Anyway, sorry. You were saying you had made some claims that there were naturalistic, supernatural explanations of stuff like lightning and whatnot that were proven to be false later on that we have naturalistic explanations for. You said we know that these religions are false because of that. If I have that correct me if I'm wrong. How do you know that?
Well, I mean, because the claim for those religions, like we could take one that's not personal to you, and like the Roman pantheon, or Greek pantheon, whichever one. So we know that one of those gods, Zeus, I believe in the Roman pantheon, wielded lightning. He created lightning. He had like a hammer, and he would pound lightning and everything like that, and then he threw lightning. So that's the claim of the religion, and what we understand now is the scientific explanation I gave about positive and negatively charged particles and everything like that. So, like we've grounded something in reality with practical explanation versus the supernatural.
That's good enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So, in order to know that scientific explanation, you rely on the scientific method, right?
Yeah, scientific method is geared towards revealing the truth of reality. So yeah, I would say so.
Okay. And does the scientific method rely on induction?
Induction.
So the belief that the future will be like the past.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's part of uniformitarianism, which is kind of one of the bedrock things of science in general.
Right. So I'm sure you're familiar with David Hume and his problem of induction. You familiar with that?
No. Why don't you tell me about it?
Yeah. So basically, the problem of induction is that we can't know the future based on what the past is. So how would you solve that in order to use the scientific method?
I mean, I don't think that we say that we know the future, but we can, for everything, for all of our observations, it seems like how natural processes have operated in the past, they continue to operate in the present, and they're unless acted upon by some kind of outside force, they will continue to operate the same in the future. I don't see any reason why it would change. So like it's more about it being a secure guess, like a very strong educated guess about what will happen in the future.
So if you make this educated guess of what will happen in the future based on the past, is that not begging the question?
No, how would that be begging the question?
Because what I'm asking you is, how do you know that the future will behave like the past? And correct me if I'm wrong, what I heard you say was the past has behaved like the past, so therefore the future will.
No, I did not say the past has behaved like the past. What I said was that that natural processes have operated the same as we've observed directly. So there's no reason to think that these natural processes would operate any differently in the future. Not saying that they definitely will operate the same, but it's more about coming to the conclusion that more likely than not they will continue to operate in the same manner.
1 minute.
Would you say that saying that there's no reason to believe they will change in the future is actually giving me a justification of why they will behave like that in the future?
Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, so my question ultimately is, how do you know they will behave like that in the future? And your answer was, we don't have a reason to believe they won't.
No, I'm not saying that I know that they will behave that way. What I'm saying is that we can be reasonably justified in assuming.
Just to cut you off, because I don't have a lot of time. Sorry to do this to you. Yeah, if you can't know that the future will be like the past, i.e., induction, how can you trust the scientific method? That'd be my last question.
Okay, so I would say that we can trust the scientific method because it's going to give us the best possible conclusion that maps to reality. If something changes, like in a natural process, then what we do is we go back to the drawing board, we work that change into our model, and then we have a better predictive model for the future.
That is time there. Thank you for the great starting cross exam. Let me know when you're ready, John, and I'll go ahead and start your 7 minutes.
Okay. All right, go ahead and
You
start.
ready?
Yep.
Perfect. You've got 7 minutes starting now.
Okay, so what is your denomination of Christianity?
Right now, I'm leaning towards orthodoxy, so we can just use that for this debate.
Okay, orthodoxy.
Eastern Orthodoxy.
Eastern Orthodoxy. Okay, that's interesting. I don't think I've had to have I don't think I've had a conversation with somebody in the Eastern Orthodoxy. So just because I don't have all the denominations memorized, would you believe that God is omniscient?
Yes.
Okay, so he's omniscient, meaning that he knows everything. And you would believe in he's a triomni God, right?
Triune, yeah. Triomni, sorry. Yes.
Triomni. Okay, good. And then you would agree that Jesus is God, right?
Yes.
Okay. And given that, then would you identify God of the Old Testament as also being Jesus?
So we have to be careful when we talk about like specifics like that. Like not every time God is mentioned in the Old Testament is it speaking directly about Jesus, but is Jesus in the Old Testament? Yes, through the theophanies as an example.
Well, no, what I'm talking about like is if Jesus is God and God is in the Old Testament, then Jesus would be God in the Old Testament, right? Or are you saying that Jesus is a distinctly different
God
person?
hasn't changed throughout the Old and the New.
Okay, all right. And I guess you would agree that God is the moral foundation of like humans, right?
Yeah, I believe in divine command theory. Not that simply God just commands what is true, but that what is true is based off of his nature.
Okay.
Or what is good.
Next, this is going to hit a little hard, and there's no other way that I can ask this. Would you kill a child?
Would I kill a child?
Mm-hmm.
No.
If God told you to go to the next town and kill all the children in that town, would you do that?
If God told me, no. But I'm not a prophet, for example.
Okay. I mean that. So if somebody that is a prophet of God said that God said go and kill all the children in the next town over, would you do it then?
Like he did in the Old Testament, if I was a soldier in the army of Israel, yes.
Okay, so there is a situation where somebody, Paula White, that is supposedly a prophet of God, comes to you and is like, "Hey, go kill all these fucking Canadian kids." You would happily take up arms and shoot a child in the face.
Well, that's easy. Canadian. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. We are also on YouTube, so I don't know. I don't want to do any TOS, but in this current age where we are now without prophets, no, I wouldn't, because there wouldn't be any prophets to do that. I don't want to waste your time.
How do you know
but I can
that,
give
though?
you the context of the Old Testament.
Oh, I know the context of the Old Testament. Because of the scripture. Where in the scripture does it say that God or Jesus will not appear to anybody else in the future, or not reveal?
Well,
anything?
it says that. Yeah. So within Orthodoxy, we believe the scriptures as God's word, and in Hebrew it says that God has spoken in this final time through His Son. So we know that there are no more prophets.
Okay. All right. Moving on from that, but sticking in the realm of morality here, since you believe that he is omnibenevolent, do you still consider him to be omnibenevolent, even though he told the Israelites to go and kill, children, women, and non-warring men?
Yes, and we may be operating on different definitions of omnibenevolent if you want to get into that. Well, I would say that all of actions. All of God's actions are loving.
I'm sorry. I'm needing to process that one. So God's actions, being loving. He literally told Moses to go in Numbers 31. If anybody out there wants to look it up, Numbers 31. God tells Moses to go and kill this entire group of people, including the small children. 1 Samuel 15:1-3. He specifically lists out the young children and babies as to be killed. So I want to hear you Wi-Fi gospel right now to say that it's a good thing that God had babies killed.
Yes, so especially within Orthodoxy, we believe in an age of accountability. So any child that dies whose will was not aligned with sin would be in a blessed state after their separation of their soul from their body. So I do think that would ultimately be good. Now, if
you're not opposed to abortion, then, huh?
No, definitely opposed to abortion.
Oh,
this is a commandment by God.
Hold on. Why are you opposed to abortion when you just affirmed that? And I would assume that you would consider a fetus or even a gamete or a zygote to be a person, to be a child. If you have an abortion, then they're automatically blessed, and so they go to heaven, right? There's just a whole bunch of zygotes rolling around up there in heaven right now.
1 minute.
Yeah. So God commanded the Israelites to wipe out a nation. And in part of this, the children had to be slaughtered along with everybody. And it wasn't exactly everybody, even later in the verses, you can say.
No, seriously.
Hey, can you let me answer the question?
Well, no, this is my time.
You don't want to hear the answer?
No,
That's fine. You don't have to hear the answer.
No, I've heard the answer before.
It just makes you look foolish.
No, how am I being foolish right now? You're the one that says, oh, it's good to kill babies as long as God tells you to. In your world, he says
there's nothing wrong with it.
No. In my worldview, so in my worldview, there is something wrong with it, but maybe we can get into that later.
It just goes against your preference.
No. It's not that it goes against my preference. We'll have to get into it later, though, because I know time is about up. My entire point in this section, though, was to prove that God is not omnibenevolent. His core definition of God includes omnibenevolence. No, this isn't a question. I'm wrapping it up because the time's almost up.
Well, cross-examinations are for questions. You can do that in the open discussion.
Okay.
That is time.
There you go.
Just to clarify, though, on cross-examination, they are just for questions, right?
You should be asking questions. It's okay to make a quick statement, though, especially if you only have like 10 seconds left, kind of like you did at the end of your cross-exam, right? That's okay. And then you ask your question, right? Like, it's okay to use 10 seconds.
I just didn't think there was a question coming after that, but it's fine. We can move on.
There really was no time there to respond to a question at that point. But with that being said, let me know when you're ready, and we'll go ahead and start your 7 minutes on your next portion of the cross-exam.
Okay, I'm ready.
Cool. Starting your timer now. You have 7 minutes.
Okay, so I want to hit back on this how you know question. How do you know anything to be true?
How do I know anything to be true? I have justified true beliefs based on reason, logic, and evidence.
Okay. When you say reason, do you mean the reasoning faculties that you have?
That would be the reason that I'm talking about.
Okay. Now, how do you know that your reasoning is reliable?
I think that it's generally reliable, but not infallible. And I don't think that reasoning has to be infallible in order to be generally reliable.
How do you know that it's generally reliable?
Well, because through the evolution of Homo sapiens and the Homo genus and just animals in general, we've been able to reason our way around our reality, and that has resulted in us developing this reasoning skill that has allowed us to survive. So that's, evidence, and there's logic that can back it up. Like the better you can reason your way around your...
Okay. Did you use your reasoning to come up with that answer?
I did, yeah. That and research with Google.
Wouldn't that be circular?
I don't see how it's circular.
Okay, so you use your reasoning to justify your reasoning, and you don't see how that's circular.
No, I use my reasoning in order to have a justification for the question that you answered. That's not using reasoning to justify reasoning.
The question I asked was, how do you know your reasoning is reliable? So if you use your reasoning as a justification.
Right.
to know that your reasoning is
So I did
reliable. That
answer
would
your
be
question.
circular, right?
I did answer your question. I just didn't answer it like your script demands. So you don't kind of you're just sticking to the
No,
script that you have.
You just admitted that.
I
All
don't
right, let's
think
go
that I
over it one more
did.
time. How do you know did you use your reasoning to come up with the justification that your reasoning is reliable?
I mean, I used reasoning in order to come up with a justification that fit your question, but that's not a circular logic
circular.
kind of thing. No, it's not.
All
It's
right.
really not. But
You said
go ahead.
you also said logic. Are you talking
Yeah.
about the laws of logic?
Yeah, that would be part of it. Yeah.
Okay. And what are the 3 laws of logic?
I don't know why I have to repeat the 3 laws. I mean, it's been listen, I'm 40 something.
Can you
It's
answer the
been
question,
a
please?
while. Well, there's like law of identity. I don't know all 3 laws of logic like you're wanting me to do, but I don't know why this has to be some kind of recitation of basic logic.
So you don't know the 3 laws of logic yet.
Nope, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You know
I did not
things.
say
Let
that.
me,
I
let
did
me
not
finish
say
my
that.
question. It's
I
my
did
time.
not say that. I did not say
Okay,
that.
so then can you answer the question? I'm asking you a
I can
question. Answer the
Google. I
question,
can
please.
Google you the 3 laws, and I can
So
repeat
you
them
don't know
for
them.
you.
All right, this is my time.
No,
Please be
I
quiet.
didn't say that I didn't know them. I
This
can't
is my
repeat
time.
them
Please
to
be
you.
quiet.
God
Recall,
damn it,
reclaim my time.
Wi-Fi. Why can't you fucking listen to what I'm answering?
Stop spurging. I reclaim my time.
Go
Both bring it
fuck
down
yourself.
Both bring it down like 2 levels.
I'm asking you, you said that you're using the laws of logic to know things to be true, but that you don't know the laws of logic. Now, that's fine. The law of identity,
3
the
laws
law of
of logic, law of
non-contradiction, the law of
identity, law of
excluded middle.
non-contradiction,
That's
the
fine.
law
I'm
of
not asking
excluded
the
middle.
question yet. Please be quiet. All right. Now, how do you know that the law of non-contradiction is true? I asked you a question.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. I was too busy trying to concentrate on waiting
All
for
right,
the
so you're
question
just
to come
wasting
up.
my time now. I'm going to reclaim all this time. You're just going to add time onto the clock.
You're such a dipshit. So for the laws of logic, these are things that we have noticed about reality, and we have observed these things, and so humans have come up with these laws of logic.
All right, so humans have created the laws of logic?
No, humans have observed that these laws of logic hold in reality, and so we have described them.
Okay, so they're real because you observe them.
They're real because they exist and we have observed them. But I mean, they're real regardless of whether or not we're here to observe them.
What did you use to observe them?
I mean, I haven't personally observed them, but humans have used, their reasoning skills, their eyes, their,
How do you use your eyes to observe a law of logic?
A law. I mean, I'm sorry. If you put a quarter next to a quarter, you can identify like the law of a quarter is a quarter. Like that's law of the law of identity.
That's a particular instance. A law is universal. How do you use your eyes to view an immaterial universal law?
I mean, I don't know how to answer your question specifically.
Yeah, so you can't use your eyes to view an immaterial law. So if you can't observe it, how else do you know it's true?
I mean, we can philosophically, work through it if you want to.
That's a better answer. How?
That's a better answer. You're an arrogant shithead. So
stop attacking each other.
So, how can we philosophically work through it? I mean, sure. If look, I'll tell you this: if you want a basic class on like logic and shit, go to a fucking
this isn't answering my question at all.
No, right? Because I'm not an expert in philosophy. I'm an engineer. So like.
Okay,
if you want a philosophical explanation, go to a philosophy major.
Okay, so you can't justify the laws of logic are true, but you use them to know things.
I don't have to be able to know anything, right? I don't have to be able to justify the laws of logic in order to use the laws of logic to disprove your illogical God.
I don't have to justify the existence of God to say that he exists then. And that could be a valid answer, right?
No.
Oh, so is it not a double standard to say that you don't have to justify the laws of logic and you can use them, but I have to justify the existence of God? Is that not a double standard?
No, your claim is more specific, and also the laws of
But you
logic
can
are
finish your response.
no.
Now, how does reclaiming time work? Did you add time on for me already?
So as I mentioned, I'm not going to be doing that. What I'm going to be doing is basically reclaiming time is just, hey, I get my time back, as in I'm taking control and asking a question again.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay with not doing anything, but I did say that and you didn't stop it, but that's fine.
Yeah, I was trying to let y'all get through that because there was a little
No
bit
worries.
it got a little bit heated there, right? With that being said, we have a 30-minute cross exam, and then we'll move into the closings after that. I'm sorry, not cross exam, my 30-minute open
do
discussion.
I not get another round of questioning?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry.
You guys have
Just
to
change the format. That's my fault. I'm sorry. It's a new format. I'm still getting used to this. Sorry about that. Yes, you do get your second cross exam there. That is a fail on my end. Let me know when you're ready, and we'll start your cross exam time.
Okay. I'm ready.
Perfect. You've got 7 minutes starting now.
Okay, so Wi-Fi, you believe in libertarian free will, correct?
Could you? In what way are you using libertarian free will?
Free will, like, you know, I guess the free will that most people think of, like you have the ability to make any decision. You're free to make any any decision, I guess, is the best way to describe it, maybe.
Well, it's a tough definition because I don't believe that humans have the freedom to make any decision. I believe that they have the freedom to make the decisions that they are able to.
Oh, okay. So you're not like a free will absolute kind of person.
Well, what I mean by that is, like, I don't have the free will to fly because I can't flap my wings that I don't have.
Okay. Well, so what I'm talking about is if you go through a scenario and you make a decision, and then if we were theoretically able to rewind the scenario with all the exact same inputs, you could then make a different decision than you had made, even though there was no change to the inputs of that system.
I'm not quite sure I follow, but I do believe that I have a freedom to make a choice.
Okay. So, are you following my whole thing of, like, some event happens and you make a decision in that event? Let's say we rewind the clock, we have all the exact same inputs, and we come back to that event and you have a decision to make. Do you think that you will always make that one decision, or do you think that you have the ability to make multiple different decisions even though nothing's changed about the situation?
I mean, I guess hypothetically, if we rewinded time, sure, I could make a different decision.
Okay, so not a determinist then.
Definitely not determinist.
Okay. And still affirming that your God is the triomni God, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can you explain to me how omniscience works in your view of God?
Omniscience, that God knows everything?
Yes.
Yeah, he has knowledge of everything, past, future, present.
Okay. All right. So I've got a question written down here. I just wanted to make sure that it was going to be applicable to your beliefs. So your theology claims that God is perfectly omniscient, knowing the future, every future event infallibly. That would be correct, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But your particular religion also claims humans have libertarian free will, or the free will that I've been describing. Well, no, sorry. I wrote it down a specific way, but the free will that I was describing, meaning that they can genuinely choose otherwise at any given moment. But if God already infallibly knows all future choices, I simply cannot ever choose differently than he already knows. My future choices are thus fixed, determined logically by his knowledge. You can't have it both ways. Either your God is not truly omniscient, or humans don't have genuine free choice or free will. So I guess ultimately my question would be, do you think that, do you think if God knows every single event that's going to happen and every decision that you're going to make, do you still think that determinism is false?
I'm not a philosopher. If you want a philosophy answer, go take a philosophy class.
I'm not asking.
I'll actually
well, no,
answer your
I'm not. I'm
question.
not asking. Well, I mean, I'm not asking about philosophy. I'm not asking about
Yes,
philosophy.
you are.
Well, no,
It's
it's
an
a
extremely
philosophy topic.
philosophical question.
No, it's a philosophical question, but I'm not asking you basics about philosophy or like how philosophically prove God is omniscient or something. I'm asking you, if God is omniscient, then how can it also be non-deterministic?
Because there's things such as causal determination or over causal determination, not determinism, determination, which is the view that both God and man choose the same event and thus are both free in their choice. For example, if I take two matches and I light them at the same time, and then I light a candle with them at the same time, you can't tell me which match lit the candle. They both lit the candle, and yet the candle is lit. So the same action comes from two free choices.
No, but I mean, if so two, you're saying two free choices, but if
Mhm.
you were to make a different choice than light the candle, then that means God is wrong, right? Or are you saying that
No, it
if
means God would also make that choice.
well, see, that seems like an unfalsifiable position to hold then, which I feel like
It's a good position.
weakens your, to be unfalsifiable is a good position.
Well, like you can't falsify the position. Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
No, I mean, I would disagree, but I understand, being a Christian and religious apologist, I can see the appeal to that.
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. Let me see. So on truth, so I know that you've talked a lot about like truth, knowledge, how you can know those things. I've been watching a lot of your debates here recently.
Cool,
I'm just,
thank you.
I'm just kind of curious about, like, if you can give me a practical explanation as to how God, like, what role does God play, like, in knowledge or reason or truth? Like, what is the practical way that he grounds that, or what is the practical way that we can know that
Yeah.
that God is necessary for those things?
Through divine revelation. So you got kind of asked two questions, but the reason that God helps us or makes us to know things is through
That
divine
is
revelation.
time. However, you can feel free to respond if you want, or you can call it.
Just quickly, it's through divine revelation and the normative authority of the church. But now, why is he necessary? It's necessary because the contrary is impossible. There's literally, as I've showed, you can't know anything under atheism.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll go ahead and move into the open discussion now. With this, let's try to not get too heated and have a good conversation between the two of y'all. Y'all are both seem like good people. Let's just have a good conversation. There's no reason, you're not enemies, right? But let me know when y'all are both ready, and we'll start the 30 minutes for that. I'll be here to moderate that discussion. If it gets a little bit heated, I'll jump in or something. And let's try not to have one side eat up all the time. Let's try to be fair to both parties because you're both taking the time to be here today. But let me know when you guys are ready, and I'll start the timer.
Cool.
Good.
I'm ready now. I think you're ready, right?
Perfect.
I would like to start off on your morality, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
All right, and I'll give you equal time back. So what do you believe about morality? Is it objective or subjective?
I believe it. I would believe in subjective.
Okay, so earlier when I said it was just your preference, why isn't it just your preference if it's subjective?
Because I can be objective about my morality, but even though it's still subjective, because being objective means that it's you're sort of stepping outside of your situation or outside of yourself, and objectively analyzing it to come to like the whatever moral conclusion you come to. So
Okay, maybe I'll put it this way. It might help us. Do you believe that moral facts exist? And I could define that for you if you'd like.
yeah, define moral facts.
So a moral fact is that a moral statement can be true or false. For example, murder is immoral. That is either true or false if moral facts exist.
Okay.
So do you believe in moral facts?
I don't believe in absolute moral facts, I guess. Like I believe that
Yeah,
you
moral
can be
facts
you can
would
be
be absolute.
okay, well then no, I do not believe in moral facts. If they have to be absolute, then no. And I don't think that you should either, considering your God commands the murder of people like several times throughout the Bible. I mean, I know you specially plead for your God, but it's whatever.
Yeah, we can get there. And I'll totally answer all those questions. But it's confusing to me because you said that it's not preference based, yet there is no truth or false value to a moral statement. So if you say that murder is immoral, what you're meaning is you think it's immoral, not that it actually is true that murder is immoral.
I think that it's true that murder is immoral if you're looking to build a civilization.
Right.
If you're looking to build a
Right, so, like-
society or exist within a society, or if you're looking to, or if you're a social species and you need to cooperate with other species in your group in order to survive, then murder would not be in the best interest.
Right. So you're saying that you wouldn't say that 2 + 2 = 4. You would say that that's true. You wouldn't say you think it's true, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, we can show that regardless of like a human presence or any kind of sentient presence, 2
Right.
+ 2 = 4. I can
Okay.
get my discrete math book out if you want me to perfectly diagram how 2 + 2 = 4.
No.
I mean, it's
No.
been 20
It's
years
just an
since I've been in
analogy.
school, but
It's just an analogy. Now if you wouldn't say that about if you would only say that about math because independent of humans it's true, then you also would not say that about murder because it's not independently true.
no, I wouldn't say that about murder because it requires sentient beings in order to come to conclusions, whereas math doesn't require any kind of sentient being or any kind of mind in order to experience it, regardless of whether organisms existed in the universe. 2 + 2 would still = 4.
All right, and this is the point I'm getting to is right here. If you wouldn't say that murder is immoral is a true statement, rather only you think it's immoral if you're focused on some goal, then how is that not a preference?
I mean, I would say that murder being immoral is a true statement, but it's still subjectively, like it's contextualized subjectively, because like in my current time and place in the society that I'm in, yes, murder is immoral. That's a true statement. But if you were to shift time and space and society, then murder is not necessarily immoral in that particular situation.
So it seems like you had to contextualize it in order to say that murder is immoral is a true statement, because earlier you said
Yes.
as a moral fact, it's not a true statement.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get at is
playing off, well, hold on. So
Okay,
playing off
answer,
of playing off of what you just said, would you say that chattel slavery is wrong? Is a true statement under your understanding of what you were trying to entrap me with?
I would say no, and you wouldn't either.
No, I would definitely say that. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it in the same context that you're taking. Like it is true. In my context
Right.
of it being temporarily,
It's just your preference.
constrained. No, it being temporarily constrained by time, place, societies, and all that. I would say that it is true that chattel slavery is wrong, but that's because
No,
I'm
that's just a
contextualizing it
preference.
in time. No,
Yeah,
it's not. It's
within
not
your
just.
preference.
No, it's not within my preference. I'm contextualizing it in a time, place, and in a current state of
Okay, so
human
society's
progression.
preference.
Right. It's a societal norm.
Okay,
I mean,
that's still a preference.
I definitely I agree with the arguments behind chattel slavery being wrong and the reasons why chattel slavery is wrong. Like I agree with those things, but that doesn't make it just simply a preference that it's wrong.
It also produces another problem.
You still
So
haven't
you
answered the problem that I brought up.
What was that?
Well, I mean, your God, the
problem?
omnibenevolent God, dictates that, you know, the Israelites should take slaves, and he has specific rules
Yeah.
for taking slaves. So, I mean,
Right.
it kind of seems like if God's omnibenevolent, and now we know that chattel slavery is wrong, it's wrong to violate human rights.
Who said that?
Huh?
Well, one, human rights don't exist. Two,
I mean, we define human
chattel
rights.
Right, it's just another preference.
No, it's not a preference. You keep trying to contextualize things in preferences, and it's
no, you're the one contextualizing.
No, right. I contextualize morality in specific times and places and all that because morality changes
to make
over
it
time.
a preference.
No, I'm not making it. See, you're what you're doing is you're playing word games with the word preference in order to degrade like the actual topic of morality here.
No, that's
because
exactly
what
in
you're
the
doing.
time that, like in America in the 1700s, societal preference was that slavery was a good thing, right?
Right.
Okay, so in that time and period, slavery was a good thing. In this time and period, slavery is not a good thing. How do we know who is right and who is wrong?
Well, I would think that depending on the end goal that you have, you can come to that moral conclusion.
Right.
If you're looking to survive,
preference.
I mean, just all right. You want to contextualize as a preference? Your preference is to suck God dick. My preference is to not do that, and instead to place humans above any kind of supernatural deity. How I treat humans, how I treat, animals on the planet, how I treat the planet itself. All of those things are far more important to me than, worshiping a god. So you prefer to worship a god and I prefer not to, thus reducing your position down to just a preference as well.
No, that's not true. I worship God because it's true. And that's what the debate is about.
No,
but
you prefer
so what do we do
your
with
god.
criminals? What do we do with criminals?
I have problems with our current criminal system. Just getting that out to begin with. I have problems with it. I do feel like criminals should be punished by whatever way is commiserate to the crime that they committed. But as I said, I disagree with our current prison system in the United States and how prisoners are treated.
Okay, so what should we do with them?
Well, so as far as like the topic of slavery goes and where this is probably leading, I think that, sequestering somebody from a society, preventing them from doing harm to the rest of that society is what's needed. I think that reform is also needed so that they can be reintroduced to society. That way that they work with individuals in the society and help promote, the survival and thriving of that society.
So when you sequester them from society, you put them all in one place. Do you think they're just going to get along in this one place?
I don't know. I think that humans in the past have always found conflict in just about every kind of situation. So no.
So you'll probably have to separate them, right?
Just a quick reminder: we're at 20 minutes, and this is not another cross exam. This is an open discussion. Let's be respectful of both people's time.
Okay. I
Yeah,
would like to finish this.
I mean,
and if you want to go to something else, you
right. I
can.
mean, you're just talking about the prison system and how we sequester people
Right.
into prisons and then we separate them out. Again, however the sequestering goes, I mean, I agree in the sequestration of individuals that are harmful to a society, separating them out. Now, where this deviates from slavery and chattel slavery, for one, I don't think that the state or any private entity should benefit off of the hard labor of individuals that are being sequestered from society. I think that individuals that are sequestered from society should be reformed so that they can be reintroduced to society and no longer need to be sequestered.
And
So
let's try to
wouldn't
keep it
there-
on topic, as the topic is, does a Christian God exist?
Well, this is part of Godless's argument against God.
The moral argument.
But all right.
Okay.
Let's move past this. I just want to finish the point about the prison system. No matter if you think the prison system is good or not, you have to come up with some way of doing this, and it involves separating people from society and then separating those people from each other. And in order to have a system like that to work, somebody has to pay for it. In El Salvador, they're doing it. They're making the prisoners work to pay for their prison system, right? Some people disagree with that method. Now, if they disagree with that, then there has to be like a tax system in order to pay for the guards and the nurses and administration teams that run these prisons or rehab facilities. So either way, there's always an economic benefit, even if it's not off of the hard labor of the prisoner. It's still an economic benefit off of the sequestering of the individuals. That was my entire point. It's very similar to a slavery. What I'm saying is you're okay with slavery in certain situations, and so am I.
No. So that's not slave. That I think that you need to revisit what the definition of chattel slavery is and slavery in general, because like it's definitely the person owns another person and benefits off of their labor. Like they reap the benefits off of their labor while the person receives, not nothing, but like definitely not repayment or payment in commiserate to how much labor they put in. They're essentially they're not paid adequately at all for it, and that's why I do consider a portion of our prison system now to be slave labor. I think that it's horrible how we treat prisoners in the United States. So I would agree with you that is bad, but I'm also using my subjective morality in order to make that determination because I have a very humanistic end goal. I have a very society-centered end goal of surviving and thriving as a society. And so that's why I make the determination that is a bad way to live, a bad way to treat people, because I have humans' best interests as my end goal that I'm using to make that determination.
Okay, we can move past that. Do you have any questions for me?
I mean, I'm still like very confused about how. I mean, I guess not confused. I'm just kind of in awe of apologists, like William Lane Craig and yourself, that seem to be perfectly fine with the wanton slaughter of children. It seems so crazy to me that as long as God says to do a thing, you're going to do that thing. And for me though, as far as omnibenevolence goes, which is a core aspect of your God, I would think that a God would understand that, there's no need in killing a child, and that there's no need in wiping out entire civilizations when you can readily just incorporate the children. You can incorporate anybody that's not a war fighting person. You can incorporate those individuals into the society. It just seems weird to me that you think that it's still omnibenevolent for him to command the slaughter of children. So how do you explain that it's a good thing to kill a child in that situation?
Right. So it's justified in the sense that there's these two groups of people, right? And God promises a land to one group of person, and he tells the other group of people through that one group of person that they need to leave. They don't leave, and God judges them for that. And part of that judgment is a communal judgment The judgment is on everybody. And then God does not do any wrong to the individuals that are killed. God has given life and God has taken away life. So even like if hopefully me and you both live very long lives with the advancement of technology, maybe we live to 120. That'll be cool. Maybe we can have a beer on your 120th birthday. That'll be fun. That'll be full circle. But the thing is, God is killing you at 120 as well. When God takes life, he takes it every time. Every time God takes life, he takes it. So why is he justified in taking your life at 120, but not justified in taking the child's life at day 3?
I mean, it's not God. This is a false analogy here, because I mean, unless you're talking about God speaking to the dude's neighbor and the dude's neighbor going and killing him, this is totally different situation than what I'm talking about. Because what I'm talking about is God speaking to Moses, and Moses then being like, yeah, sure, God, everybody go and kill the children in that city. Like that would be more comparable. Like so it's not God that's killing the children, unless you're talking about an Exodus where he kills all the firstborn. It's God commanding people.
Even then,
to
he
go.
uses an angel.
Yeah, I mean it's but that's supposedly an extension of God, right? At least that's how it was.
Yeah, I mean it could be a theophany, and an angel of the Lord is actually the Lord. You're right. But the thing is, he's just using a different means.
Well, yeah,
so if
but
it's
I mean,
true,
but I mean, still, you're saying that God is omnibenevolent, while at the same time you're just redefining what good means as to just align with whatever God wants. And see, that seems a bit shady to me.
There's an analogy I like to use where it's if we're on the road together and you cut me off and I get really angry and I have cop lights, or maybe just traffic lights on my car, yellow lights, right? And I flick them on and you're like, what is this guy doing? Flicking his lights on me. He's not a cop. And I pull up on the side of you and I'm like, pull over. Are you going to pull over?
I mean, no, I'm going to call the cops.
Right.
But fuck, I live in Alabama. I might pull a gun. I don't know.
Yeah. I was going to say, you might pull over to handle it a different way. But the point I'm trying to make is if you cut off a cop and you were speeding and the cop puts his lights on, you're going to pull over, right?
Sure.
All right. Why is it okay for him to pull you over, but not for me?
Because he's empowered by the state to pull over, and there are repercussions for doing it.
Right. So I'm just saying that there's different levels of authority. God owns the land. He owns everything. He's given life to everybody. He has a certain level of authority. Can you prove
that he owns the land?
Well, he created it. And this is, again, an internal critique.
He created it?
Well, yeah. So if you're doing an internal critique on my worldview, then you have to accept that God is real in order to critique the morality of it.
No, I don't.
To say God's immoral.
No.
I mean, that's just an external critique.
You're trying to do the circular logic thing that you were trying to pin me on earlier. Yeah, because you're saying that you have to first believe in God in order to get the evidence to prove that God exists. So, like, you have to first assume God exists,
that's
and then
my argument.
Yeah, it's a circular argument. That's what tag is.
It's not. No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. It's inherently a circular argument.
Part especially.
How is it not a circular argument?
All right. I don't know if we have enough time for this, but I'll tell you why it's not a circular argument. Is modus ponens, and I can explain that. If P then Q, P therefore Q. Is that circular?
No.
No. All right. So if humans have knowledge, the Christian worldview is true. If humans have knowledge, therefore the Christian worldview is true.
This just sounds like some Cameron Bertuzzi bullshit. Like,
Cameron doesn't like that argument. So it's not his, but I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But you're the one claiming it's circular, and I was trying to show you why it's not.
Well, right, but you're just saying if humans have knowledge, then Christianity is true, and that just doesn't, like, that you don't have any supporting evidence for that.
Okay, so I do have the supporting evidence for it, but I just want you to admit that it's not circular first, because I did show you that it wasn't circular.
10 minutes?
Okay. I mean, sure, that particular argument isn't circular. That's not what I
Okay.
was saying was
So
circular, though.
the supporting argument for that is the impossibility of the contrary. Because there is no other worldview that can account for knowledge, and the Christian worldview can account for knowledge, then the Christian worldview is true.
Judaism and Islam both use the Abrahamic God. So, like, I mean, you're just wrong.
All right,
there.
so we could easily go through that, but are you giving up the fact that atheism or agnosticism can account for knowledge?
No, we can account for knowledge. It's easy
Okay,
to
how?
account for knowledge. Hold on, let me pull up my notes here because I did make notes on this because you made a pretty big stink about this. You know, in one of your debates, but I wrote down some notes.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for watching that. I appreciate when people do their research, and I've seen a few of your debates as well.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize how long you've been doing this for. I thought you were newer to this, but you've been doing this for quite a while.
Yep, 2012. So, like as far as knowledge goes, we can ground knowledge in let's see, crap, I'm trying to find my notes right quick.
You need me to pause time for a moment, guys?
I'm okay with that. If you want to give him time to look up the notes.
It's up to y'all. That is one of the options that I gave y'all.
Right.
Yeah, pause the time to let him look up the notes.
Cool. I'll pause time. Just let me know when you guys want me to resume it.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Okay. So here are my notes. Sorry, you can go ahead and start back, Taco.
Cool.
Resume.
Yes, sir.
Right. So as far as grounding knowledge without the use of God naturalistically, it involves a combination of empiricism, rationalism, skepticism, and pragmatism. So we got empiricism, which is observation and evidence. We've got rationalism. We've got skepticism. Pragmatism, which would be the utility and predictive power. So why God is not necessary for epistemic justification. Appealing to a God to ground epistemology.
We could go through each four of those if you'd like. We already did go through two of them.
Right.
Earlier. I don't know if you want to rehash those or if you want to do the skepticism or the pragmatism part.
Well, so as far as naturalistic justification goes, a naturalistic epistemology grounded in empiricism, rationalism, skepticism, pragmatism requires fewer assumptions and is epistemically more rigorous. It provides a testable, universally accessible, objective framework to achieve reliable, actionable, and continuously refined knowledge. Such a method remains open to correction and refinement. It can justify claims precisely because it remains epistemically humble, open to revision, self-correcting, and requiring continual verification rather than dogmatic assertion. This approach enhances our confidence in justified knowledge precisely because it remains transparent, reproducible, and subject to independent scrutiny. I got that.
All right, so here's something that I heard you say. You said it can justify it because it remains epistemically humble.
Right.
So that means you could be wrong about it, right?
Right. Yeah, but I mean,
right.
Nobody like as far as naturalism goes, nobody is claiming to be infallible in this. The only ones that are claiming infallible knowledge is religious people.
Right. So epistemology is the theory of how we know things. If you could be wrong about something, can you know it?
Yes, because knowledge doesn't require you to have infallible knowledge.
So if we were to have a raffle and there was 1 billion people in the raffle and you had one of those tickets, could you know that you have a losing ticket?
I mean, I think that you could know. Well, it depends on how the raffle is done. Like, are the numbers picked before the raffle is given out, or are the numbers picked afterwards?
Yeah, let's say there's literally a billion raffle tickets. When you buy a raffle ticket, there's 2 tickets. They cut it in half. You get 1 ticket. 1 ticket goes in a bowl. It's a really big bowl. And there's a billion tickets in there. Everybody only has 1 ticket, and they just reach in like a regular raffle, and then they pull 1 card out, and there's a
Right.
winner. Could you know that you have a losing ticket?
I don't think that you can know that you have a losing ticket, like with like near 100% knowledge, but the likelihood of your ticket being the winning ticket is incredibly low. So you would be justified in assuming that you do not have the winning ticket, but there's still the slight possibility you could.
So you can't know it because you could be wrong.
No, you can't know it. Well, for one, you can't know it because the ticket hasn't been picked yet. Like the winning ticket hasn't been picked. So it's literally any ticket. Once it's picked, there's 1 ticket that is a winner.
Let's say it's picked and the person who picked it slides it into an envelope and didn't look at it. So there is a truth of the matter, but nobody knows, like nobody has seen the ticket yet. Could you know that you have a winning ticket then?
Well, I mean, obviously, no, you wouldn't know.
Could you know that you have a losing ticket? Sorry.
I think that there would be a high likelihood of a losing ticket.
Right. But you couldn't know it because you could, even in the slightest, 1 billionth, you could be wrong.
Right.
All right. So if your epistemic justification could be wrong, then you can't know it.
No, I mean, so in the situation of before the answer is revealed, no, you can't know it. After the answer or after the ticket is revealed, you can know it. Like, I don't understand the
right,
the
because
point
you can't be wrong about it. At that point, if it's revealed and everybody knows what the winning ticket is, then you can know you have a winning ticket or know you have a losing ticket because it's been revealed. We know it.
Right. But I mean, like, let's, you could also say, oh, look, that person saw the ticket before it got put into the envelope. Then they would know. It's just all a matter of when you have the information in order to make the determination about whether or not you have a ticket. I really don't know where this is going. Can you just sort of, get past all of this?
Because my claim was that agnosticism and atheism, any worldview adjacent or any worldview under those categories can't account for knowledge. You said it could. One of the things I heard you say was that it was epistemically justified because it's epistemically humble. And that's what I pressed on.
Okay. How does factoring God into your lottery situation make it to where you can know shit?
So in the lottery situation, God is the organizer of the raffle, and he did see it, and then he reveals that information to me. So for example, he looks at the lottery ticket, and then he texts it to me and says, hey, you lost, sorry. Nobody else knows, but I have knowledge because God, who knows the information, revealed it to me. That's the analogy in my situation where God knows everything. Can't be wrong about anything.
Well, right. But how do you know that God didn't pull your ticket and then just texted you no anyways?
Like he lied to me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that God couldn't reveal things to me, which is why I know it's the Christian God who can't lie.
Oh, but God definitely says that he lies in the Bible.
Where does he say that?
Let's see. There was I can't remember the exact verse, but there was a time when there was like a whole bunch of prophets, and God sent out a lying spirit into the prophets' mouths and told a bunch of lies and only revealed the truth to one particular prophet. But it's the fact that God sent out a lying spirit to the prophets. So God literally lied to all these prophets and only gave the truth to one prophet. And so yeah, God lies.
1 minute?
No, I would have to see the exact story because I don't think that you have the context of that right.
So you don't. So let me get this straight. You don't know which story I'm talking about, but you know that I got the context.
I know the story.
Do you?
I know the story, but it doesn't seem like I know it's in 1 Samuel, I believe, but I don't think I don't remember it exactly happening like how you said it did.
Okay. Let me see if I can find it. Is it Samuel 1:15-29? Is that the one? No, Samuel 1:15-29. He who is the glory of Israel does not lie or change his mind, for he is not a human being, that he should change his mind. Does God ever change his mind about things?
When God changes his mind in the scripture, it's a relation. It's not like he actually changed his mind. For example, when it says he wishes he never made man, it's like it's saying like I wish I never did this thing. It's not saying like
That
he
is
actually
time,
wished
but
he
you can
never
finish.
he intended to do it. He intended to do this thing. It's just a way of relating his what he's thinking to us.
All right. That was time.
Perfect. Yes, sir. So that was the open discussion portion. We'll be moving into the closings. The affirmative is going to take the closing first, and then the negative, and then we'll move into audience questions. The closings will be 7 minutes each, and then I'll cover the audience questions in a minute. But whenever you're ready, Wi-Fi, let me know, and I'll start your 7 minutes on the closing.
Yeah, I'm ready now.
Starting it now.
All right. So, my entire argument was that the necessary preconditions for knowledge can only be grounded in the Christian worldview. The proof of this is not only that the Christian worldview can account for these things, but that any worldview that is not the Christian worldview cannot. For example, the agnostic and atheistic worldview, that one of which Godless holds himself, actually can't provide epistemic justification for any of the knowledge claims. For example, we were told tonight that empiricism can give us knowledge, but empiricism relies on the reliability of your senses and reasoning, which when asked, were given circular arguments to justify them, which is no justification at all. We were also told that the naturalistic explanation, or the naturalistic epistemology, is a humble epistemology because it could be wrong. I demonstrated that if you could be wrong about it, you actually don't know it. We talked a little bit about morality tonight, which is interesting. Now, I appreciate Godless not using his opening statement as a rebuttal, which I think can be fair sometimes as the negative, right? You just hear it and it's like, well, might as well take this opportunity. But he stuck to the opening that he had prepared, which is honorable to do. And not that he did watch the debates that I had, and I guess not that he could have predicted exactly what I was going to do here, but he didn't address those arguments. He addressed arguments that I don't usually use, but I do understand why. I mean, they're popular arguments, so I understand why he would address them in the opening statement. So we didn't really get into those, but we did talk about morality. One of them was he was going against the argument for morality that theists sometimes use. I don't think that you can get from morality to God, but rather you have to go, you can get, I don't think you can go from morality to God, but I think that you can get morality from God. Because if you're trying to get to God from morality, you could just say, like, I'll say, well, morality is subjective. So if it's subjective, then we don't need God. What I was confused of was that he said that morality wasn't a preference, but it was subjective. My whole point with that is that 2 + 2 = 4 is true. That's not a preference. But when you say, I think 2 + 2 = 4, that could be false. Why? Because you actually could think 2 + 2 = 3. So then saying, I think 2 + 2 = 4 would actually be false, because what you really think is 2 + 2 = 3. But that's why if something is subjective, you can't say morality is immoral, is a true or false statement. That's incoherent under a subjective morality view. So not only does atheism and agnosticism not account for knowledge, it actually doesn't account for how they know morality. Because ultimately, you can't know that murder is immoral. You can just say, it goes against my preferences, or, as Godless admitted, society's preferences. So you can take the worldview where you can't have knowledge, and you can't know what is and is not immoral. You can have your preferences. Or you can believe the truth and come to the Christian worldview and bow before God and be humble and understand that if you don't do that, there will be a consequence for that. If you put your faith in Jesus and you repent of your sins, then there is hope for you. And I pray that each and every one of you do that. So thank you for my time.
Starting your timer now. You have 7 minutes.
Okay. In this debate tonight, I really just wanted to attack, I guess, Wi-Fi's specific definition of God that he thinks exists and, grounds knowledge and all that. And so I chose to go about that by looking at omnibenevolence, omniscience. I didn't get to omnipotent. I feel like the tri-omni God is definitely a God that doesn't exist. So I take the positive position on that the tri-omni God doesn't exist. And I went through and I tried to show how illogical that God is as far as being considered omnibenevolent. It kind of seems like the apologist tactic there is to just redefine what good and bad is as in terms of God, what God likes and what God doesn't like, which ultimately resolves in you being convinced to do pretty horrible things like kill small children, wipe out entire civilizations, side with Israel. It can make you do a whole bunch of things on those particular fronts. I know that Wi-Fi said that I was being a bit circular logic-y in a few situations. I don't feel like I was providing any kind of circular logic, but I do feel like the tag argument, the transcendental argument for God, or what seems like Wi-Fi's typical avenue of proving God, that is definitely circular logic, because as we saw in our discussion there, you have to first believe in God in order to understand that God created everything, and in that it proves that God exists. So that's a complete circle, a 360 no scope there. And so that's how I attacked omnibenevolence. Omnipotent, this idea of being all powerful, the way I would have attacked that is by basically suggesting that, well, if God couldn't outlaw slavery, or he didn't outlaw slavery, like in the 10 Commandments or anywhere in the Bible, actually, then it seems like God is constrained by a certain time, place, and group that he's speaking to. If he's having to make laws that people will follow, but even though they don't follow later, kind of seems like he is limited in his abilities there. There's several other ways where you could actually show the limited power of God, which would violate the omnipotent portion. Then there's the omniscience. I tried to show how God can't be omniscient or all-knowing and have perfect future, past and present knowledge, while still maintaining that you have still maintaining that determinism is wrong, and that you have the free ability to make whatever choice you want to, that you are able to make, to fall in line with what Wi-Fi actually believes. So I feel like that's an inherent contradiction there, primarily because of the fact that if God is omniscient and he knows everything, then you should, there's one choice. Even if you were to rewind things and you make a different choice, that's just the particular version of reality that God chose to actualize. So he still is determining your decisions for you. So, I feel like the tri-omni God that most Christians define is definitely illogical and is contradictory in nature. I feel like from an internal critique of Christianity, it's very illogical. Saying that God is the absolute foundation of morality, I don't think actually makes any kind of sense, considering that the morality of Christianity has changed so much over time. Yeah, I guess that was my entire way to go about this. Just basically breaking down his definition of God, showing how irrational and illogical it actually is. I didn't come to this debate to have like a philosophy 101 discussion or like a logic 101 discussion. I understand the importance of those particular topics whenever you're starting out discussing these things. But as far as like the time that we didn't have time to go back to remedial philosophy and logic, in this discussion. So I also didn't exactly appreciate some of the claims that were made against things that I've said in the discussion, and so that got me upset. I'll be the first to apologize to Wi-Fi for losing my cool there over that. I just don't react poorly to being told that I said something that I just simply didn't say. But in any case, I think that's it. It was a really poor closing there, but I guess I can't wait to get grilled by questions.
Are you saving the rest of your time?
Yep.
Perfect. That both of y'all had great closings there. Thank you guys.